I do think that words are important and words matter, but actions speak louder than words. And I offer that to the public. Senator Obama, go ahead. Senator Obama, do you want to respond?
Well, I think actions do speak louder than words, which is why over the 20 years of my public service, I have acted a lot to provide health care to people who didn't have it, to provide tax breaks to families that needed it, to reform a criminal justice system that had resulted in wrongful convictions, to open up our government and to pass the toughest ethics reform legislation since Watergate, to make sure that we create transparency, in our government so that we know where federal spending is going and it's not going to a bunch of boondoggles and earmarks that are wasting taxpayer money that could be spent on things like early childhood education. You know, I think if you talk to those wounded warriors of Walter Reed who, prior to me getting to the Senate, were having to pay for their meals and have to pay for their phone calls to their family while they're recovering from amputations, I think they'd say that I've engaged not just in talk, but in action. Now, I think Senator Clinton has a fine record, and I don't want to denigrate that record. I do think there is a fundamental difference between us in terms of how change comes about. You know, Senator Clinton of late has said, let's get real. And the implication is that you know, the people who've been voting for me or involved in my campaign are somehow delusional, and that the 20 million people who've been paying attention to 19 debates and the editorial boards all across the country at newspapers who've given me endorsements, including every major newspaper here in the state of Texas. You know, the thinking is that somehow they're being duped and that eventually they're going to see the reality of things. Well, I think they perceive reality of what's going on in Washington very clearly. And what they see is that if we don't bring the country together, stop the endless bickering, actually focus on solutions, and reduce the special interests that have dominated Washington, then we will not get anything done. And the reason that this campaign has done so well, is because people understand that it is not just a matter of putting forward policy positions. Senator Clinton and I share a lot of policy positions. But if we can't inspire the American people to get involved in their government, and if we can't inspire them to go beyond the racial divisions and the religious divisions and the regional divisions that have plagued our politics for so long, then we will continue to see the kind of gridlock and non-performance in Washington that is resulting in families suffering in very real ways. I'm running for president to start doing something about that suffering, and so are the people who are behind my campaign.
All right. That John King was alluding to in talking about some of Senator Clinton's comments is there has been a lot of attention lately on some of your speeches, that they're very similar to some of the speeches by your friend and supporter Deval Patrick, the governor of Massachusetts. And Senator Clinton's campaign has made a big issue of this. To be blunt, they've accused you of plagiarism.
Right.
How do you respond?
Well, look, first of all, it's not a lot of speeches, right? There are two lines in speeches that I've been giving over the last couple of weeks. I've been campaigning now for the last 2 years. Deval is a national co-chairman of my campaign and suggested an argument that I share, that words are important. Words matter. And the implication that they don't, I think, diminishes how important it is to speak to the American people directly about making America as good as it's promised. And Barbara Jordan understood this as well as anybody. Now, the notion that I had plagiarized from somebody who's one of my national co-chairs, who gave me the line and suggested that I use it. I think it's silly. And, you know, but this is where we start getting into silly season in politics, and I think people start getting discouraged about it. They don't want... What they want is, how are we going to create good jobs at good wages? How are we going to provide health care to the American people? How are we going to make sure that college is affordable? So what I've been talking about in these speeches, and I got to admit, some of them are pretty good. What I've been talking about is not just hope and not just inspiration. It's a $4,000 tuition credit for every student every year in exchange for national service so that college becomes more affordable. I've been talking about making sure that we change our tax code so that working families actually get relief. I've been talking about making sure that we bring an end to this war in Iraq so that we can start bringing our troops home and invest money here in the United States. So just to finish up, these are very specific, concrete, detailed proposals, many of them which I've been working on for years now. Senator Clinton has a fine record. So do I. And I'm happy to have a debate on the issues, but what we shouldn't be spending time doing is tearing each other down. We should be spending time lifting the country up.